Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Travelers Season 3, Episode 7. It is called Trevor. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So we said last time, or maybe the episode before, that we were coming to these episodes worried, because when they name the episode after the character, I get concerned
Yeah.
that it's a goodbye episode. And, you know, very quickly early on, you know, Trevor has one of his blackouts when he's riding the bike, and I thought, Trevor, you've had two of these, at least, as far as we know, you've had two of these. Do you really think you should be riding the bike when this is a possibility?
I mean, worth noting that he probably doesn't realise it's happening.
He definitely noticed. The two we know about, he definitely noticed.
I mean, sure. But
because the other characters certainly reacted to it, and, you know.
Right, but I don't think he realised it would happen this often.
Well, I mean, he does have a good bit of insight as to what's going on. Once we get into the meat of the episode, he's had experience with these symptoms with someone else, so he knows what's happening, what to call it. I can't remember what they called it. It was a big long word.
It was temporal it's not asphyxiation, but something along those lines.
I want to know what temporal asphyxiation is, though.
I know. Me too.
Not as good as the autoerotic kind, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
So he blacks out in the bike, and then the very next scene he's on a mission with the team, and he's holding a rocket launcher. And I'm like, guys, this is a bad idea.
It's like, what the hell? Yeah.
Trevor, you busted your face when you fell off the bike. Do not be operating a rocket launcher. Because I thought he was going to like shoot it. Because when the plane went past, I thought it was because he was ready to fire. I thought it was going to like wake up and fire it immediately, and it was going to just hit something else.
Yeah, I thought that might happen too.
I did like the neat trick where there was another team there. Like another rocket showed up. And it was like, oh, because they didn't succeed, the director knew to send another team. I thought that was a neat touch.
Yeah, that was cool.
So. Yeah, because they were stopping. There was a plane with anthrax. It's just a background thing, but it was there.
It really didn't matter, even though that sounds like a big deal.
It sounds like a big deal, but it's at this point though we've dealt with so many of their missions that we don't have to like focus on them in the same way.
Yeah,
the same kind of thing. But then he opens up about what's happening to him, and he says that the oldest person, in terms of like living through multiple bodies.
Before him, the old record holder.
Yes, the old record holder. This eventually happened to them. And of course, the big twist later on is that it was his wife. Like they were testing this together, and they were going through all these bodies. They raised kids through 3 lifetimes. 3 hosts pairs, which was really fascinating. But he's going to start blacking out more and more, and then eventually he'll just never wake back up. He'll never snap back out of it.
Yeah.
And he's taken to Elsa, or the director specifically, wants to talk to him.
It's worth noting that for him, this is happening quicker than expected. They actually call it early onset, like you would with Alzheimer's happening before you're expected. As an age-related illness.
Yeah.
Because of the AI maybe triggered something.
Well, yeah, because it happened right after that. So it seems like that counted as another transfer, and it was like one transfer too many. Like that's
that could be exactly what it was. They're not entirely sure. They're like, no, it did something that's caused this to exacerbate.
I like that it's all very vague though, because they wouldn't really know too many specifics, given that it is like a new thing because of what they do. Like it's not something that's existed before.
It's only happened to one person before.
It's pretty new in the term of medical precedents. It's not been around for a while. But he talks to the director. We don't get to hear this conversation. In fact, the entire team is just like looking through the window, like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know. And he comes out and says that he's made a deal with the director that the body's still healthy, so someone else might as well use it. So in 36 hours, someone's going to overwrite him.
Which is exactly what we were suggesting might happen last episode.
And, they're all kind of sad. And he's like, no, it's fine, guys. I'm at peace with it. You'll have a new engineer. This is good news. And they're all just kind of sad. And what I did notice in this scene, just to divert to Philip for a second, is he's like, no, this is not right. This is the director's fault. Like and it was kind of that moment at the end of the last episode where we're talking about how it sounds like he's starting to question things, and he's maybe thinking maybe the director isn't always right, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Here he's voicing his discontent. And I don't think he's betraying them yet. I don't think he's like joined a faction or anything like that. He's clearly agitating, saying, no, let me talk to him. This is bullshit.
Yeah, he's not happy.
He's not happy. And And also on Philip, the idea that because he's not taking those pills, he is outright seeing multiple timelines of things that could happen.
Yeah, pretty much all the time.
Yeah, he's getting glimpses. One point Carly's asking about her neighbour. We'll talk about that plot, but he sees an outcome where she might get arrested for whatever happens because of that, potentially.
Yeah, I'm really... Because the thing is, some of these could come true.
Some of them could be, and a lot of them won't. But I love his reasoning. He doesn't want to know the future. He's like, no, I like being surprised. And if I see like 5 different things of the same, 5 outcomes of the same event, I don't want to know which one it's going to be.
It's so fascinating to me here, the dichotomy between Trevor and Philip. Like, Trevor's like, no, guys, you'll get a new engineer. This is exactly what you need. This is for the team, for the mission. And Philip's job on the team is to know things, right? To be able to know the future. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. So whereas Trevor is literally going, no, just I'm ready to die, to sacrifice myself for the good of the mission, for the good of the team.
Yeah,
and Philip is almost, he's not, but almost you could view it as selfish by comparison.
Yeah, I wouldn't it's funny. Like, you could almost say it's less to do with the difference in personalities and more to do with the age and the idea that maybe Trevor, once upon a time, in his... I mean, we don't know how old Philip is either, in terms of his age, his real age.
Certainly significantly younger. Yeah.
But, like, in his... Let's say Philip's, like, 50, right? His original self is 50. We know Trevor's hundreds of years old. Like, let's say he went through this phase, when he had, like, this kind of doubt, this kind of stuff. Yeah. And he's outgrown that to the point where he's come back around and he's maybe more calm about things. You could also argue, though, that coming back to the past has unlocked a lot more questions in Philip's mind about the morality of what they do and the morality of what the director is and so
absolutely. on. It's why I don't want to say he's being selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course he's not. It's just almost in comparison to Trevor, in the way the dedication to the cause.
It's almost like when they first come back, it is just a mission because everything they've known about this time period has all been theory. It's all been history. We're going back to do this mission. It's very cold and detached. But now they've spent a year here. They're learning.
They care about people.
They care about each other because everyone else is like, Trevor, you're going to die. No, we care about you. Like it's not just about having an engineer.
Yeah, I think the best scene of this episode is with Grace.
The dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. So Grace is not a part of any of this shit. She gets called over by him. He sends her a text. Even her text is like short and to the point. He's like, "Can you come over tonight?" And she's like, "When? 7. Fine."
Yeah. Classic Grace.
Classic Grace. And she comes in and she sees the table and I think it was leaving candles out.
Yeah, it's all nice.
And she's like, "Oh, what is this?" And he's like, "Dinner? For who? For us?" And then she just says, "Well, we don't have to do that. We could eat after." He's like, "No, Grace, I'm not trying to seduce you. Shut up. Stop."
She's so horny for him.
Calm down. Calm down, Grace. And she says that, and he tells her, and we cut ahead, we skip some of the actual explanation because we've heard it already.
Yes, because this is a well-written show and knows that we don't need to hear things twice.
Yeah, not in the same episode, certainly.
Yeah.
So... But what's interesting, though, is this the first time we've outright just cut to a flashback of the future? This overtly.
That I can recall.
I think there's been some like hazy images before, but this is the first time it's just been outright. Here's a wide shot of people sitting in the future.
Yeah, I have vague memories of like when they talk about the one that flooded.
Yeah.
Like I have vague memories of maybe seeing that.
They've been very abstract about it, though. It's never been this outright. And don't get me wrong, they keep it wide. You never get close enough to really get a close-up of the old actors' faces who are playing Trevor and his wife. But it was a really poignant moment, and there was something really sweet about this being the first time we get like a glimpse quite like this. Yeah, and he's talking about how him and his wife, because we never even knew he had a wife, I don't think. I don't remember it coming up.
I don't either. But, I mean, it stands to reason.
Yeah, we lived 3 lifetimes worth. We had, we raised 3 rounds of kids throughout these 3 lifetimes, and then this started happening to her, and she slowly, withered, and eventually she just didn't come back. And he doesn't want everyone else to go through that, and so he's made this deal with the director, and he's like, "There's no reason for me to hog this body for any longer than I need to. Let's just send someone else." And I think a big part of this episode is that he has kind of accepted that he's been alive for so long compared to what he's supposed to be. And he's like, "Hey, I've lived longer than anyone else who's currently alive, basically. It's my time to go."
he's like, no, I'm not meant to be immortal.
And I think
it's fine.
And by the end of the episode, when he's upset that he is still around and they've kind of fixed it, because that was one of my favorite parts. Because they get this big plan. Of course, Grace is like, "Hey, you were building a thing to save your wife. We've got these schematics. You can get us those. We can build it. I can do the coding. We can get Elsa to do some computations. We can do this. We can figure something out." And he goes along with it, but he's kind of hesitant and so on. But I think he almost, I don't want to say he wanted to die, but he'd made such peace with it that the thought of then having to like come back, it's not, do you know what it's like? It's like when you've given up on something and then you find out you didn't have to give up on it, but you've already kind of accepted it, so it's hard to like get back on it. If that makes sense.
He was, like I say, it's not that he wanted that, but he was ready.
Yeah.
Like I say, he is an old man. You get fooled because of the younger body, obviously, but he is still a very old man.
And this was fascinating. It's fascinating character stuff. It's fascinating stuff in a lot. And obviously, it's wonderfully put up against David's plot, which is.
Yeah, but no, we'll go back. I want to go back to the scene with Grace.
Sure. Go back to the Grace.
So he's telling this story about him and his wife, and the last time they went and saw the sun because there was this one spot you could see the sun, and she's just like, no, I want those memories with you, and she's actually crying, and it's like,
yeah,
Grace has emotions.
She cares about him in a way that I don't think we quite sussed. It's like she always presents herself as really, foul mouthed, very quick to the point, and just horny, right? That's what we get from Grace. And this was like genuine emotion. And then there's that moment where he realizes, wait, it just happened again, didn't it? Because time jumps, but it's less obvious than the other times it's jumped. This is intentionally very subtle.
Yeah.
Where she's like crying, and it kind of like it jumps, and it's like, oh wait, that happened again. If anything, we experienced that one like him because it was just like, time was missing.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my favorite things about this episode, outside of that flashback to the future, I love that flashback to the future. It's such a fun phrase to say.
It
is the montage where they're working on the cure, and they're recording how long it takes for his blackouts to happen, the intervals between them, and
you just cut every time they're doing something different.
Yeah, and they'll ask him a question because he's the one who designed these things in the future, and he'll start a sentence and he'll stop in the middle and then finish it later.
The one that got me was Philip runs up and is like, right, quick, what material?
Yeah.
And he gets to, he's like one digit away from finishing it, and he jolts back into it, says the last digit, looks around, and it's like Philip, they're just playing chess, and it's like been 2 hours.
Yeah. The one time that he wakes up and they're all eating dinner, and Philip, as he's going up to write in the whiteboard or the glass board, what the time was, he hands him like a spring roll or something like that on the way up. He's like, here, eat this. You're not eating anything. You're passing out. And I'm saying pass out. I don't really have a proper word for it because it's not passing out. It's just very specifically like a pause. It's like a freeze.
Yeah.
And so, because Mac and Grace go to the director. We're going to Elsa, and it's very implied right from the get-go that they're hoping the director will, because it's like, oh, if we go to Elsa, the director's going to know and probably try to intervene. It's like, yeah, and it's basically that's what they're hoping for. They want to talk to the director.
And when he finally shows up, Grace is like, about damn time.
Yeah, and the director's like, there's no permanent solution to this. This cure will work for X amount of time, but it will always fail eventually. The algorithm's not perfect. It never will be. And Mac makes a really good point, because they never actually tell us how long it'll be. And I thought, but is it long enough for the body to live? Like, if the duration of time is, say, 50 years, and he's already, 20, then that's a reasonable amount of life is not infinite. That's okay.
Yeah. And that's Trevor's kind of whole thing.
Yeah.
This is like, no. It's got to happen at some point. Why not now?
But I kind of like Mac's argument here, where he's like, yeah, life's not infinite. It doesn't have to be permanent. It just has to be enough to give him the rest of this body's life. And that way he knows it's definitely the end. When Trevor in this body dies, that's definitely it. He can't go to another one because, we're at this point now. Because the thing is that, because I don't know if they've ever established there's so many cameras inside the base. It makes sense though, given how
they have.
Yeah.
I remember a few times last season with it being a big thing.
But it makes sense given how specifically, when Philip's seeing different timelines, he's seeing actual images. But it makes sense given that all the footage will be there.
Yeah, I feel like when they were making the videos that were for the end of last season.
Yeah.
I feel like they were like, having to work around them there for the director.
Yeah, that makes sense. But they're turning them all off because they're doing it behind the director's back, and they're going through with it. And the director says, "No, Trevor's made this choice. I'm going to honor that deal."
It was his suggestion.
It was his suggestion, even more so. Yeah. Again, adding to this idea that he's kind of just accepted it, and I think a big part of this is because it's exactly how his wife died. That like, no, that was the end for her. I'm accepting this is the end for me. And I think part of it is that the hope that he makes see his wife again. You know, if there is some sort of afterlife, this will be when I can finally see her again. You know, and so that's all beautiful stuff. This is a beautiful episode dealing with death and what a person's life means to others around them, which again is both in this plot and then it's accented in David's plot. So thematically everything ties together, but also the idea of like, but if this is Trevor's choice, if it's Trevor's choice to just let it happen because he's lived long enough, should everyone else respect that and honor it? You know, like, is he right to be mad at everyone else, or did they essentially, you know, let's say this was different. Let's say this was just someone who physically was healthy but wanted to commit suicide, and everyone else stopped them. No one would say they're the bad people for doing that. You'd say, no, this person needs help.
I think, like, Alzheimer's is a very easy comparison to what's happening here, in that, you know, Trevor is losing himself, right? He's not experiencing things correctly. He's mentally incapacitated, right? And Alzheimer's, it's a very similar way. You know, it's this gradual thing. It gets worse, and you know, ultimately, you barely know who you are, let alone who the people around you are, or and what you have very little awareness of what's actually happening in your life, and that would be the same here for Trevor. Is that he might wake up every so often, but he'll have no concept of what's actually happening around him because he won't have time to process it.
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely there, I think. But I think the debate we're having now though is with the cure, which is going to last potentially years, decades, even. They never really quite specify how long it will last. But let's say it does. Let's say this is a good 40 years worth of life he's getting, or even if it's just 10 years. 10 years. What like?
Yeah.
At this point, they're saying no. We can save you and you'll be fine for an unknown amount of time, like any human life.
Yeah.
Right? Or we can let you die. And I think it's a great case in this episode where you feel sympathy for him because he was ready to go and they kind of pulled him out of it. It kind of reminds me of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when the friends were a little bit selfish and brought a certain person back to life.
John, I think a large part of this is, I'm going to brush straight over that, from Trevor's perspective, is he's scared to not know and not have that control over it.
Yeah, because this way he knows he's making a choice. He's got 36 hours till it's done. He's accepted that.
Yeah, there was two possibilities this episode, or the way this episode was going to go for me, was, when he came out talking to the director and he says, you're going to get a new engineer, a new traveler coming to this body. And they say when. Now, obviously, he went with the 36 hours, but the other option that sprung to my mind immediately was he said, "Oh no, I didn't ask when. I didn't want to know. I wanted to just not have that awareness of that countdown of when it's going to be. He didn't want to know that." Whereas obviously the rest of the episode establishes no. He wants to know exactly when. He wants to be in complete control of his final moments. Which
again is interesting because it's the exact opposite of Philip, where Philip doesn't want to know anything because it's too much of a burden.
Yeah.
And this is fascinating stuff, but I think this is again, it comes back to at the end when he gets mad at everyone that he was not given this choice because he was out of it when they started all this. When they came in and let's do it, he was in one of his own outs. It's like I sympathise with him because they did take it out of his hands, but at the same time they saved his life and he's going to be around for it's the sort of thing where in 6 months' time he might actually be very grateful they did this because he'll get to live in a way that he never would have done before.
Yeah, I think the problem that comes up, at least to him, is that this could only last a week, and then it's the same problem again. But he will maybe not be aware and not have that choice like he does now. And he mentions when he turns the power back on and the cameras, and he's not immediately overwritten. There's two options, right? The director's like, no, this has worked. We don't need to take him now, or at least not yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the other option, like he suggests, is what if what you've done with this brain surgery has, made the host body unviable for something
Yeah,
else? And if he goes in, a week, 6 months, does he feel like, no, they've wasted this body, they've wasted this chance?
yeah. And to that, I would say, shut up. It's uncertain. You don't know, like everyone else on the planet.
Oh, of course. But I think that's where he's
Oh
coming
no,
from.
absolutely is. But this is what I'm saying though, is that I don't think he has any real credence though. This is all just personal feelings that are understandable, but don't actually add up when you compare them to anyone else.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Otherwise, he's not being selfish because he's operating under the rules that he's been operating under for a long time. But I think ultimately they saved him, and he might be fine for years. And the whole idea that life is worth, even 5 years of life is worth saving for that.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't think he's worth it, even if he doesn't think he's worthy of any more time, because he's had too much. Life is worth living as long as you can. Yada yada yada. Get your heartwarming greeting cards or holiday cards out of the way. But the point I'm making is that there's an uplifting side to this, but there's an anger from him because it was taken out of his hands, and I think a part of this is going to kind of be him learning to live again. Like him learn, because he's always appreciated life in a weird way, because he's always been very
more so than anyone else. Even just a couple of episodes ago when he was running with Philip, and he's like, no, you make the most of this.
And I think there'll almost be like a learn to live again in a way that's been different. Like I think ever since he started transferring bodies, there's been this weird safety blanket, or this this safety net that people aren't supposed to have.
And I think he's been doing this for so long, and he's always had control over. And okay, time for the next body, right?
Mm.
They've never had this lack of knowing what's going to happen. Obviously, now they're in the past. There's always this is kind of their last bodies for most of them. But to him, that's still an alien concept because he's been through so many. That's such an alien concept.
I think it, in a very neat way, kind of relates to the overall progression of the show, where they all came back, they all know about the future, everything felt like, okay, we know exactly what's going to happen, here's where we need to stop. But over time, the more stuff they've changed, the more different the future's become, therefore the less they know, and the more uncertain everything is to them personally. And I think that is almost like just displayed here in full with Trevor, is that he's always had control, and then all of a sudden everything's uncertain, and I could get sick and die in a week.
Yeah,
I could get sick and die in 60 years. And the truth is that that's true for every human being on the planet.
But it's something that he hasn't had to comprehend in hundreds of years.
Yeah, but so I think ultimately, if he doesn't eventually forgive them, if not thank them, that should be where the growth goes. You would think.
You'd think.
And even he holds Gracie's hand towards the end. And she looks like a giddy little schoolgirl when he does so, may I add.
Yeah, because that was part of that scene with Grace when she's crying. It's like, no. She's like, I get that you and you were soulmates, and I'm not that, but can't we at least try and have something?
Yeah, because she even gets upset. She can't live up to 3 lifetimes worth. Like that's how can one person possibly do that?
Yeah, but and Trevor's always been very closed off with her, and we've always just thought, yeah, okay, he's not interested, right? He's past it all, but no, it's because he's still hung up on his wife, essentially.
Well, to a point, because he was into the real Grace, and it was a very different relationship with her. I think,
but I don't think he was into the real Grace in the same way that he was with his wife.
Oh, sure, yeah. But there was a connection there.
Yeah.
And I think part of it might even be that this Grace, now being a traveller, because she comes from his world, essentially, it feels a bit more real. Like, it feels a bit more like you're kind of outright replaced. Whereas original Grace was such a different person, a different beast, if you will. Completely different idea of a relationship. It wouldn't even be compared in the same way. But this is kind of different. This is someone from his world. It's someone who understands what he's talking about. It's someone who's shared a lot of this future experience, even though her future's been very different, as we've heard. And
it might feel like he's betraying the memory of his wife.
Yeah. So no, I foresee interesting developments from this, and I think. I think the way this ties into David's side of the plot, where we see him, he's with this really nice man. I think his name is Jim.
Jim, yeah.
And he is this delightful old man. Even as he's having a heart attack, he's being nice. He's giving David out of trouble for being too abrupt with the orderlies. He's like, no.
It's like, look, paramedic. He's just trying to do his job.
Yeah, just do his job.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Be nice to him. And then he's upset. Marcy's trying to console him, and he's doing his speech, and he gets really angry on the phone because see the way Jim was talking at the start. I thought his wife was dead. The way he talked about missing his wife, and then you find out later, no, they're just divorced. She left him a long time ago, and David tries to say, hey, the funeral's going to be here this time, yada yada yada, and she doesn't want to come. She hates it, her ex-husband.
Yeah, there's a point where it's like she calls him a loser, right? Yeah. And it's like, and that gets to him.
By the way, I love that even when he's phoning Marcy, because he's worried, because she promises she'll be there because her being in the crowd will make him feel better about the eulogy, right? So he's...
Yeah, the idea is, she gives him the advice, you're not giving the speech to 10, 20 people, you're giving it just to me.
Yeah. So he's relying on her being there. And we know she's dealing with Trevor.
Yeah, so she's performing brain surgery.
Yeah, so I'm thinking she's not even going to show up. She actually show up just in the nick of time, just as he's starting the speech. She kind of comes in.
I also thought it would be another, one of those times where one of the team doesn't quite make it to the life event.
And David, he calls her before that though. It's like 10 minutes say before it's time for the speech, and he calls her. I just wondering where you are, Marcy. People are arriving, and I love that even in this phone call from a funeral, he still ends it with, "Oh, by the way, it's David."
Yeah,
he always ends the phone call with "It's David."
Yeah, like she doesn't know.
Yeah, it really cracks me up. It just made me laugh because it's at a funeral. Also, my favourite line of the episode does come from Grace. It's when they're first starting to formulate the plan, and Mac for a split second says, "Hey, the director's already made a choice on this," even though he wants to save Trevor. He's like, "But the director has already made a choice," and Grace just yells at him, "Don't pretend that you disagree with me. It's just a waste of time." And he just kind of shrugs and goes, "Yeah, okay,
yeah, all right,
go for it." But that line, I'm going to use that in life, constantly.
Is a good line.
Yeah. So no, the main Trevor plot is fantastic.
Yeah, and I thought the stuff with Trevor and Grace at the end being overcut with the speech that David's giving, the eulogy, was really touching.
Yeah, thematically it always linked together, but that was like, no, here's where we marry the two plots in a way that just makes it wrapped up in a bow. It's like David's talking about how this person influenced his life, what it meant to him, and ultimately the point here of intercutting with Trevor is that Trevor's existence means something to Grace. It means something to all the team members. He improves all them. He's got this friendship with Philip. They're the roommates now. He improves everything for them. Those connections mean something. It can't just be this cold experience. We're all soldiers. You know.
Do you know, there was a moment during this montage where it was Philip and he was seeing the timelines, and there's one where the turtle disappears.
Oh yeah.
And I went, oh shit, what happened in that timeline?
Yeah, that was a bad timeline.
Because that is a dark timeline.
There's one earlier on where I think Trevor has died because they're consoling Philip. Yeah. Over
definitely.
Unless it's just the turtle died, I'll accept that too.
I mean, it could be. I don't think so, but it could be.
But yeah, really good. Really good stuff. Everything with Trevor, David's stuff linking into that thematically was all really great. There's a couple of other subplots though, just to get to. I'll deal with Carly first. Carly's got a new place. She's a little bit agitated because of Trevor, because of everything else. She kind of lashes out at Mac a little bit. It's just kind of a little character beat. It's fine.
Yeah.
The one thing though is that she notices our neighbours are shouting with each other, and then she's coming back the next day, and we see she meets the new neighbour. This woman.
Yeah, the woman's really friendly. Introduced herself. It's like, hey, you're the new neighbour.
And then the very clearly abusive husband opens the door. Says, "What are you doing? Get in here," kind of thing.
Yeah, she's literally just saying hello outside the door.
Yes, be very controlling, and obviously Carly, that is, she because of what she popped into with with Jeff, right?
She understands this,
and obviously we see the one glimpse of one timeline potential future of her being arrested, and my immediate thought was, oh, she murdered the husband or the boyfriend or whatever. So at the end of the episode, I did actually really like the scene where she just goes up to the door, chaps it. I was like, oh, this is going to be awkward. What's going to? Because I thought it was going to be him that opened the door.
I did too.
but it was the wife, and she says, "I know what you're going through. Just know that I know how to deal with situations, and if you can't get to my door, scream. I will hear you, and I will deal with it." And it's very abrupt and to the point. It's like, you understand what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking forward to it, but also not.
Yeah. I thought it was a little weird that she's like, "Don't worry, I'll hear," and then she immediately goes over to her new home and puts in earphones.
I thought that as well. She's putting in the earbuds to start painting, and I thought, you're not going to hear it if you've got listening to music in your ears.
Yeah,
Come on now.
I mean, I get it. You will listen to music, but like, you literally just said, "Don't worry, I'll hear you."
I laughed at that as well. I think it's just a little you know, maybe she already knows they've left for the day. She's seen them leave.
Yeah, it
outside.
Yeah,
you know, she knows they're not in the apartment. It's fine. It's a safe time.
No, like I said, I'm sure she knows what she's doing. It was just funny in the edit.
Part of me really wants some cathartic scenes of Carly just going over there and beating the shit out of the husband.
I can see it happening.
I want his head through a wall.
Yeah,
I can see it.
He literally has like 2 lines, and I hate the prick already.
I know. He just holds himself in just the right way, and it's like, all right, I'm ready to beat up Jeff 2.0, but that's not new Jeff. Jeff 2.0 is this guy.
Yeah, Jeff adjacent.
Yeah, Jeff adjacent. There you go. Jeff adjacent. That sounds like a new detergent or something. Jeff adjacent. So we had that, and then more interestingly, of course, how we end the episode is the end of the other subplot is Mac and Kat.
Yeah, we have a little scene at the start.
Little scene, and they seem kind of happy. He's rushing off, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there. We'll go to that boat thing. It's fine." And then they're having dinner together. It's getting kind of romantic. And even before we get to the big moment, obviously we're going to talk about. We talked to how last episode when he kind of like convinced her that you gave his consent to wipe your memory, blah blah blah. That we said this was getting creepy. How much they're having to lie to her to make this work. See, when they started like getting romantic and kissing, and it was clear they were going to the bedroom to have sex, I started to feel a bit creeped out. Like, because we're at that point now with like the lies, it starts like technically. It's
starting to feel a little rapey.
It's never felt like she's given consent in the sense that this isn't really Mac, right? But I'm really starting to feel it now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm starting to feel this man isn't your husband, and even like.
Yeah, because she's like, "Oh, we'll go to the boat. This couple have like invited us."
I think it was Parkinson's, maybe Pearson's, Parkinson's, something like that.
Sure, whatever. And he's like, "Oh, can't wait to meet them." And she just freezes. She's like, "No, you introduced me to them." And
do you know what I love about this? If this had been the first slip up of any kind, she would have probably just shrugged it off and said, "Yeah, he was having a moment." But there's been enough things that
it's
now,
it's another thing that's triggered it. It's like, nope, not having it.
If anything, this is the most convincing piece of evidence, given all the other things that she's questioned.
Yeah.
And because of that, it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like she's jumping to a conclusion. No. This feels earned, that she hears this and goes, that was proof that he's lying.
But what I really liked is it's not proof enough for her to confront him over it.
Not yet, no. She tests him at the end. That's the whole point.
And it's they get out, they're on this cliff overlooking the ocean.
And actually, point I want to make here before you even get to the scene is the reason why there's no record of any of this is because it's at a seaside where there's no cameras. It's like, this secluded bit of nature out by the ocean, and that explains why. Because he keeps trying to bring up memories of things that would be office party. There's a recording of that. He got locked out of his car. Someone had to have called the car company or whatever.
Yeah,
there'll be records.
Broke his arm. Something.
Yeah, there'll be records of all these things, if not footage of security cameras.
Yeah,
this thing happened out somewhere where none of that is.
As soon as she's like, what does this place remind you of? I'm like, oh, it's a trap. There's something big happened here between them. I didn't know exactly what, but I'm like, something important.
Either he proposed here or it was.
I thought it might have been a proposal given the spot. Yeah.
But I get why it wasn't, in the sense, like, I think the logic of the writers here might have been that, well, a proposal, that story would probably have been recounted so many times, maybe at the wedding on film or something like that, on video, that would have been on record somewhere, somehow. But this story, the idea that this one wouldn't have been told on camera at some point was great.
I buy it.
Yeah. And she's like, do you remember what you said to her? Because she keeps asking for more details. Because she's like, oh, yeah, you brought up that memory before, but what happened here? What did you say to me? And she's like, you're not him. And then she walks off.
Yeah, the moment that really got me good was she's like, she says this, and he goes like, oh yeah, I remember all this. She's like, no, you don't. I
Yeah.
don't believe that. And
And,
it's just like, damn, she's this is it.
and I totally, but because see when see the way she says that, I don't think you do. And when she says, I don't think you do remember that. Like you say, it's just her not believing it.
Yeah.
We're at the point now where, yeah, if nothing else, she's not going to necessarily jump to man from the future's invaded my husband's body.
But given that it's been brought up around her,
Oh sure, yeah,
Jeff, she might actually be considering that.
yeah. And if she goes to David, this could be how David ends up. You know,
Maybe, yeah.
you know.
I'm a little bit concerned for Kat. I don't know what the response from the team is now.
I wonder at what point they throw their hands up and say, we just have to tell her.
Yeah.
Because the FBI know, there's precedent now for people in the present day knowing about this.
There is. But okay, so they admit this. What's her reaction that for the past year her husband has been someone else entirely?
And they have been intimate repeatedly in that time period.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like what
And like I'm kind of excited about the prospect of her just outright saying that.
I'm excited but also terrified.
Yeah. And the idea of Mac having to deal with that and like kind of maybe accept that he had like this overstep bounds. Like the right thing to do would have probably been to do some sort of breakup because at least at that point it's
Yeah, and it would have been so easy given the problems that they went through, and it would have been easy just to leave it, and you'd still be following protocol by just being like, okay, this is the life, right? This is how it went.
Yeah.
But it's been so hard to try and make it work that, like I said, it's got to the point where it feels creepy. It feels wrong, and I don't think Mac realizes that. I don't think he's aware that this is creepy.
Yeah. That this will be an interesting learning curve for him, and probably a very emotional one. At that.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's safe to say it's the best episode of the season so far.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. I'm not committing.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not committing to this, damn it. It was very good.
All right, well, I'll stake it on for me anyway. That
you can stake it all you want.
This is the best so far.
You can stake it, but I will make no such bold claims as of yet. But no, everything with Trevor, like the idea of his mortality, what he feels about that, the idea of him dying versus everyone else, the fact that everyone else cares, the fact that he has kind of made peace, but that goes against the fact that everyone else is not ready to lose him. And then that brings us to the question and just in life, like who everyone always argues, it's always the person's choice what they do with themselves, blah blah blah. But at what point is your value to everyone else around you worth more than what you think it is, or vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
Interesting questions, as all sci-fi should bring up. Good science fiction always makes you ponder these bigger ideas.
It's kind of the point, right?
It's kind of the point. So here we go. That's Travelers, episode 7. We'll be back with episode 8 and day after tomorrow.
Yep.
We're getting up there on the numbers now that I'm like, damn, we're nearly finished.
I can see the finish line, given that this is only 10 episodes this season. I'm like, yeah, not long left, and then we got to wait a whole year, and that sucks because this is awesome.
Assuming it's renewed, which I'm obviously hoping. But...
I'm hoping. I mean, if it's not, someone at Netflix is getting a strongly worded email.
Netflix have had those sizzles out recently. They've been axing a lot of things.
They have, which is yes, but I am confident that quality will win out.
But Disney Plus or Play or whatever it's going to be called ain't nabbing this. So let's say from that side of things at least. Yeah. So no, Travelers episode 7 called Trevor. Let us know what you think of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel and the show and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. And you can support us over there for as little as $1 per month. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?